Okay, today we're going to talk about Stargate from 1994. A sci-fi franchise that starts with Star, but is not Star Wars, not Star Trek. I don't know, there's bound to be others. But hey, it is a franchise, in fact. I honestly don't know how I've gotten this far in life avoiding like any single material from Stargate. I knew very, very little about it. Maybe I've seen a poster before, but hey, there's a bunch of shows. It's a pretty big franchise. I didn't even know. But alas, I watched Stargate from 1994. I watched it a week ago. I watched it a while ago. But hey, honestly, I've still been thinking about it a bit, and I dug it. It was really fun. So let's start to talk about it a bit. So it was directed by maybe some would say notorious director Roland Emmerich, whose most recent film, Moonfall, hit theaters not in Canada, I might say. The film was specifically not released in Canada in theaters. It was released in theaters in the US. And honestly, I would have gone and seen it. Knowing his reputation and the kind of movies that he makes, man, I would have been in for a sci-fi romp about the moon literally falling out of the sky. I would have been down, but alas, they pulled it from theaters in Canada, sadly. But yeah, he's known for, probably his most notable film is Independence Day, which, yeah, it's fun. It's kind of honestly, same feeling as Stargate. It's I would say it's probably a little better than Stargate because I think that the leads in Independence Day definitely are much more memorable and carry the movie more than the leads do in Stargate. But I think the overall premise may be a little weaker, but still. Independence Day, he's very well known for, so I guess he made some early on movies that are just very 90s, very grand scale, and very fun popcorn flicks that did well at the box office. He made Godzilla, and then he made some other films that people don't love as much. He made The Day After Tomorrow, which I watched in my grade 7 geography class, and I remember watching it, and I was like, this is kind of cool. And that was just the most of the feeling. I just remember Jake Gyllenhaal, they had to swim at one point because it was flooding. There's a lot of natural disasters. It was very cold. It made me just feel as a little grade 7 kid, oh, man, natural disasters are scary. And I guess that's kind of a theme in some of his movies. Because he also made 2012, the year where everybody was afraid that the Mayan calendar suddenly cuts off at 2012. And people were prophesizing that the world was going to end. There's going to be earthquakes everywhere, bunch of tornadoes, just everybody's going to die. And I remember in that moment as well, in 2012, not about the movie 2012, just about 2012 in general. I remember I was at my uncle's. I don't know why we were there. I think it was just like a family get together. I have a big family, so me and a bunch of cousins went to my uncle's and we were having a bonfire. And I remember honestly the day of that, I was 12 years old. I was mildly concerned that the world might end, right? And I remember it was the perfect day for a get together because I forgot about it. And then at the end of the night, somebody was like, "Hey, Australia hasn't blown up yet. We're gonna be safe." And I was like, "Oh right, the world was gonna end." And I don't know why in my head, I'm just realizing this now. I thought that it turns to the next day in Australia first, so the world's gonna end in Australia first. It's natural disasters don't don't happen according to time zones. I'm just realizing that now. But hey, yeah, 2012. I never saw it, but I kind of want to because I remember hearing it was absolutely god awful. But I've seen that clip of John Cusack driving down an airport runway in a car with his family and jumping over cracks in the earth. Kind of want to watch it. He also made 10,000 BC, which my parents have said to me in the past, it is their least favorite movie of all time. They both saw it in theaters and came home and were like, what did we just watch? And honestly, I'm intrigued. I want to see if it lives up to their word of the worst movie of all time. Don't know too much about it. And he also did, The Patriot. And he did White House Down, one of 2 White House defending movies that year, along with, I don't even remember the name of it. But alas, Roland Emmerich, he does big budget, maybe surface level movies, but the drama is just that everybody's life's in danger, and somebody's got to save the day. And in Stargate, it is similar to that. It has that vibe, but the sci-fi elements, I think, work very well in this one. So Stargate had a budget of $55 million, and worldwide it grossed $196.6 million. And I guess that's why there's a whole Stargate franchise now. It made a lot of money. And, okay. So, basically, here, let me give a very crude retelling of the story. James Spader's character, honestly, forget his name. I'll just refer to all the characters as like their actual names, except for Ra, because everyone remembers Ra. So James Spader's character is a professor not taken seriously by his others because he has a theory that the pyramids could not have been built by humans. That doesn't make sense. The shapes and the architecture is just so advanced for that time, and it wouldn't have made any sense, but everybody's just brushing him off. I laughed, honestly, at the beginning because it's literally a movie about a guy who has a conspiracy theory that the pyramids were not built by humans, and then he ended up being right. I laughed at the beginning of this movie when he was talking about it because I was like, oh my goodness, is this really what's happening? And then it really did happen, and it was great. We need more conspiracy theory movies, not to validate the conspiracy theories, just to... These theories, they have some, creative thinking built into them. There needs to be a flat Earth movie. That would be so cool. Flat Earth movie, I would watch that. The edges of the Earth are just like... That's how people get punished. They get thrown off the Earth. That would be so sick. Okay, alas. So, turns out that the pyramids were not built by humans, but by this one alien. Maybe a bunch of aliens. I guess they never specify exactly who, but the main antagonist is kind of this one alien dude. And they find him by going through an ancient Stargate that was discovered in the 20s. And that they have been working on for so long trying to figure out. And then, James Spader comes in and cracks the code real quick. So, basically, if you've ever played the game Portal, it's a portal. It's a portal. And you go through it, and hey, you're on the other side of the galaxy. And it's on this desert planet that has a lot of similarities to Earth. Breathable air. You have some life in there already. Then they find a civilization there, and they get to know them. And they're trying to connect the Stargate back. It's all about a research mission at first to try to figure out how this Stargate works. And, they need to get back. But, something stops them from getting back. They couldn't find the seventh symbol. Even though James Spader was, saying, oh, yeah, I could definitely crack it. I can definitely get us back. And then he gets there and is like, guys, tough luck. These symbols that I was just banking on being readily available just, aren't there. And I just can't do it anymore. So, so they're stuck there for a bit. So they mingle with the locals. James Spader's character does a little more than mingling, apparently, in a very not forced relationship. No, definitely not. No. Very forced relationship with, what's her face? Shauri, played by Millie Avital. I think I said that right. But then they discover that this race of, they look human, and they end up being human, are prisoners on this planet. They're kind of mining this ancient, maybe not ancient, there's just this magical element from this alien force, Ra. And they must take down Ra in order to save the people, free the people, and I guess they don't need to take him down to link back the Stargate, but because they had initialized the Stargate, the Earth was now in danger, so they got to take out the big baddie. And they really did. They took out the big baddie. My very crude description of the plot. Okay. Let's start off by talking about some of the characters, and then we'll get into some of the other things that I want to talk about. So, Kurt Russell's character, I love Kurt Russell. I'll say that. Kurt Russell is a wonderful actor. The Thing is one of my favorite movies. Absolutely love The Thing. Sky High, another great Kurt Russell performance, in case you've never seen that before. But he was military man who comes along. Okay, his character was introduced, and he had long hair, and he was literally grieving his dead son who accidentally shot himself, and he was holding a gun, and it's like he was about to kill himself, and that's just like, it feels like it was just brushed off. At the beginning of the movie, the military people like walk in on Kurt Russell like trying to kill himself, and they're not like, hey, do you need like help? They're just like, we need you. Like, who? I thought that like, it does carry on a bit throughout the movie. He does hang out with this one kid and tell him, oh, don't touch the gun, that's bad. And there's like very minimal elements in there. Like, Ra has a bunch of kids around him, and they, like, one time when Kurt Russell's about to shoot him with that stick thing, he gets the kids to like walk in front, so he's like, oh, I'm not gonna kill a kid because my kid died. But I don't think that the general plot had much to do with his arc. Let's be honest. He was there to blow up the Stargate in case their mission didn't work. And then he decided he's gonna live again. Life is worth living. I don't really know what instigated it, but he decided it. Just trauma in general instigated this realization. Nothing in the plot really related to his trauma, but hey, the fact that you go through this tough experience, it meant something to him. Okay, alas, he was fine. He was fine. He was not standout. He did have some cool moments. He probably has some of the best moments. But yeah, Kurt Russell, he's fine. James Spader was honestly, none of the characters are like crazy good. James Spader's like, yeah, it's the nerdy guy mixed with the macho military man. James Spader, he just sneezes the whole time. I don't know why. It didn't add much to his character. But like, he's a weaker human, so he has to have not only a weaker stature, but a weaker immune system as well. But I thought a lot of the moments with him arguing to all of the academics that the pyramids were not built by humans, that he's trying to figure out how to work the Stargate, that was all fun. I enjoyed. In the end, I did enjoy his character, and he was fine. James Spader. Young James Spader. Looks a lot different. I always just think of him as Ultron. I know he was in like some big TV show. I talked to my mom about it, but like I don't know what he was in. I just think of him as Ultron now. And he was in that part of The Office as well. Next. Actually, before we get to the Jay Davison, I heard that, I forget, I was watching a video on Stargate, and somebody was saying that James Spader, I think Kurt Russell as well, they both read the script and they're like, whatever. But then Roland Emmerich, or like the production team, really lobbied to get them. And you can kind of feel it, honestly. I don't think they really cared too much. But alas. So Jay Davidson has the more interesting story. He was somebody who I actually didn't know about prior to this movie. And I guess it makes sense because he has only 4 credits on IMDb. I think 2 of them where he's actually prominent roles in feature films. So Jay Davidson plays Ra. And I'll get to the actual character of Ra in a second. But I looked up on Jay Davidson's past. He was in The Crying Game. And he was nominated for an Academy Award for acting. And I had never heard of The Crying Game before. My mom was like, oh, isn't he the guy from The Crying Game who was nominated for an Oscar? I was like, I've literally never heard of this movie. But yeah, so he was in The Crying Game. I read, I think it was on Wikipedia, that it said that he was found for The Crying Game by a producer or casting somebody. Someone found him at like a party and he was like drunk and they wanted to cast him in the movie. So they cast him in Crying Game. And then he really didn't care too much for acting. He didn't want to pursue it really, but Stargate was like wanted to build off of this Oscar nomination, so they wanted to get him. And he said that, oh, I'll just give them an offer that's like so high that they're probably just not going to take it. And he asked for $1 million, and he got it. And he was surprised that he got it. And then after Stargate, he retired from acting and went back to do his fashion design and I believe modeling as well, which is crazy. And it's like, it's a little bittersweet where it's like, yeah, it's cool that he asked for this $1 million and he got it because they really, really wanted to have him. But I kind of feel bad for the creators of Stargate because it didn't seem like he cared too much in the role. Like, there wasn't a single line of dialogue where it was his voice that wasn't like dubbed into this weird alien mix, right? And like, he didn't say too much. A lot of it was just him and his presence. Like, he had a great presence. I feel like if he was actually trying in the movie, it could have been a lot better. He had a great presence as Ra, as like this very youthful figure who's using this element to maintain his youthfulness. And he felt very empowerful. He had a good aura to him, but he didn't do too much in the movie. Okay, so with Ra as a character, it's cool that you're building on this mythology and then actually bringing it to the big screen in a sci-fi way. It was very cool. And like, the suits, I don't know how I feel about it. Like, they press a button and it like reveals that they're actually human, which was cool. But in general, they kind of look like costumes. And how did these people really believe that they were actually like they were actually these creatures rather than just humans? But it was just cool to see. I didn't love the costumes too much, but in general, Ra, his motivations were a little weird. Because I feel like what I got from it was he wanted to live eternally. He's this alien creature that they show him a few times cutting to him actually being an alien, and he took over this human boy's body, and he just wanted to use this element that he's now mining on this new world to live forever. And in the end, when they're battling, it's like, why is he trying to throw this bomb at Earth? What does he have to gain from this scenario? I guess the only thing is like he would lose his slave army. But like, it felt like there could have been a bigger motivation for the villain. And I think that could be another reason why the third act of the film was very much just like action set piece. Gotta blow up the bad guy. Oh, this bomb's gonna blow up, guys. Watch out. I did think that, yeah, the concept of using this element and having these humans mine it for him was cool. But I think there could have been another layer. In general, I feel like I'm being very negative on this, but in general, I did like the plot because the plot had a lot to do with Ra using these humans. And like, it's fun to unravel the mystery of what is actually happening. But I think the grand theme of this entire movie is that it is very surface level. It doesn't have a lot to say. None of the characters go through very meaningful arcs, but it's a cool concept. And if you know me, my favorite genre is cool concept, but I do like to have a little more substance to it. But still, I appreciate it. Okay, moving on to a few other minor characters that were not as relevant. We have an old woman. I don't actually know her character's name, but she was the one who gave James Spader the necklace, which was important. It's like she handed him the necklace, and as an audience member, I was like, oh, that's going to be important. We all know it. Somebody's going to see that and be like, whoa, where'd you get that necklace? That means so much to me. And it did. Played by Vivica Lindfors. Oh, who knows if I said that right. But, yeah, she was good. She was just like old woman who gives, like, she didn't have much to do with the plot, but she was fine. Okay, I'm not going to dwell too much on these minor characters. We had Alexis Cruz, who played the young boy on the new planet, who talked a lot with Kurt Russell, and he was the one who went and grabbed the gun, and he tries to learn with Kurt Russell. He was fun. I liked him. He had a good look to him, and apparently he was in the shows as well, I believe. But yeah, he was cool. I like this stuff with him because you have to have the element of the humans learning about this other culture, but then the other culture has to learn about the humans as well. And I like the way they did it with this guy. Yeah, he was cool. He ended up in the end kind of being one of the faces of the rebellion. He was the one who used the gun. He used the gun to try to overthrow Ra. And I'm trying to think, does that have anything to do with Kurt Russell's character arc? Because like, Kurt Russell didn't want him to touch the gun previously, but then in the end, they all got these guns and used them to overthrow Ra. But like, I don't think it really meant anything to Kurt Russell. Like they didn't connect that thread in the end. And I'm just piecing that together. I remember him standing outside the temple holding the gun. I was like, the gun motif returned, but it didn't really say much. But alas. Moving on, we have Shauri, played by Millie Avital. Who knows? And she was shoehorned in there. I'll say it. Like, her performance was good. Her character is just female love interest. And it's like, really? They fall in love after meeting each other in one night? She didn't do much. I think, yeah, the romance stuff was less interesting, but it was, she could have been way more interesting if she was, like, building, like, not a rebellion, but just in her mind, trying to understand why there's, like, this ban on reading and writing, because she eventually, like, the more interesting stuff with James Spader and her character was when they were talking about the ban on reading and writing and trying to learn about each other rather than the romance stuff. Like, that would have been cool if that was her main character focus, but it wasn't. Okay. A few other, we have Eric Avari, who is the leader of the people. I don't know what their people's name was, but I mean, they're humans at the end of the day. He was the leader. I feel like I seen him in something. Oh, I think I know. Okay, so French Stewart, who's the last character I'll talk about, very minor. He was one of the military guys, supposed to be like the macho guy, and I'm like, I just know I've seen him in something comedic before, and I looked it up. He was in a show that I have not seen called Third Rock from the Sun, but he was in Home Alone 4 as one of the villains. And me and my friend during Christmas, we skimmed through all of the really horrible Home Alone movies. And he was in that. And I remember him so distinctly now. And I'm never going to see him in another character ever. He's just the horrible villain from Home Alone 4 who just, like, it was him and this other girl who were the villains in Home Alone, and there was like a scene where they flood the bathtub and then the house just gets flooded. The kid in that one is so bad. But yeah, that's all I remember. I just remember him getting nut shot in Home Alone 4, and I'm never gonna not picture that in my mind. And I feel like my point is that I think I'm trying to think of where I saw Eric Avari from, and I think he was in a Home Alone movie too, as like the butler. Was he in a Home Alone as the butler? Let me see here. Let me Control F. Home Alone. Yeah, he was in the exact same movie. He was in Home Alone 4 with French Stewart as the butler. Man, why do I know so much about Home Alone 4? Jesus. But, yeah, he was the butler in Home Alone 4. Wow. Yeah. Guys, I don't want to recommend Home Alone 4, but, like, I do at the same time because it is such a horrible experience, but, like, you have to watch it with somebody. Man. Okay, so the supporting cast of Stargate, or I guess not, two of them reunited in Home Alone 4, Eric Avari and French Stewart. Wow, that's such a weird connection. Okay, that wasn't very important, sidebar. Okay, alas, so we kind of went through a lot of the main characters there. But now I just want to talk about, like, there are a lot of Stargate shows that I did not know about. I did not know this franchise was as big as it was. So, we have the Stargate movie, which was 1994. And then there was Stargate SG-1. I'm guessing that means Stargate 1. And it was a show started in 1997. And let me see how many seasons there were. I didn't actually write that down. Stargate SG-1 seasons. There is 10 seasons of this show. Wow. Concluded after 20 episodes on March 2007. Wow. So from 1990, a decade, 97 to 2007, Stargate SG-1 was a apparently big hit. I've never seen it. I don't really know anybody who has seen it. But that's awesome because I think that this is a perfect movie to kind of build off of because you have this Stargate and you have this one contained story of kind of like the first human interaction with it. But because the Stargates are like such an ancient thing, and I guess like the pyramids as well, it just linked to like history, and it just alludes to more. There's more to the universe that has happened previously that you want to explore, and I feel like because you have this series, so much time to build off of this, you have so much to discover that it could be a lot of fun. And I'm not a big show guy. I'm really not, but it does seem pretty intriguing. I don't think I could dedicate myself to 10 seasons of a show, but that's really cool. That I can't believe I didn't know about this show. But yeah, Stargate SG-1. And then we had Stargate Infinity, which was an animated series from 2002. Don't know too much about that one. Stargate Atlantis, which started in 2004. So Stargate, SG-1, and Atlantis were running concurrently for a few years there. And I believe it was some of the same creators attached to it. So they were doing double duty. Apparently people love their Stargate, which is what I'm coming to see. There's the Stargate Arc of Truth, and Stargate Continuum, which were like SG-1, like TV movie sequels, which were 2008, the year after it concluded. Stargate Universe, which was a show from 2009. And Stargate Origins, which was a web miniseries with 10 10-minute episodes, and is kind of just seen as a movie all put together. And apparently it's not that great, I've heard. But there's a lot of Stargate content out there. And, like, I'm kind of interested. Like, maybe I'll do some more research and kind of pinpoint which Stargate content is the best out of all of them. Maybe try to see if I can scope some of that out. But it's nice to see that this franchise took off. And, yeah. Just thought I'd sidebar and say that this is a big universe that I do not know much about. So if I'm talking about the movie Stargate, just the movie Stargate, and I don't know any of the connections to the show or anything, so I'm literally just talking about the movie. Okay, we'll talk about the movie a bit more here. So, Stargate, just the Stargate, as a concept is based on the Einstein-Rosen bridge, which is a wormhole, sorry. And, yeah, it's kind of like, I tried to do a little research on this, but, like, I literally saw Quora being like, oh, what is an Einstein-Rosen bridge? And the way they explained it is literally just, oh, you know when you have two pieces of paper and they have their distinct points on them and they're so far away, but all you have to do is fold them. You fold the fabric of space and time and then they'll meet. Which, like, doesn't explain much. Like, they use that in what? The Martian, I believe. And I saw that and I'm like, that still doesn't make much sense. Like, what does this paper represent? Is that space? And you're bending this space? Is space two-dimensional? I don't know. That concept is always, like, cool when you see people do it in movies. They're like, whoa, that's so groundbreaking with something so simple as a paper. But then you think about it and it's like, you need a little more explaining. Like, it is a cool, okay, let me backtrack a little. It is a cool visual to use, but I think you need to explain it a little more than fold the paper and 2 points are together now. Okay, alas, enough of this rant that may not have any validity to it. Movies about wormholes are cool. And that is why Stargate works. It's a cool concept sci-fi movie, which it takes one sci-fi element based in a human world and it expands on it and you learn it with the characters. So I think that I love sci-fi because of that. And I took a sci-fi class in university, and, like, one of the things that they were saying was, like, you take the sci-fi concept and you kind of put humans in an unfamiliar situation and try to commentate on the human condition. You know, this movie may not have had too much commentary on the human condition. Maybe it did a little with just, like, the villain being... He probably wasn't... Oh, like, when he was born, when Ra was born, he probably built up this prestige and this power to kind of take over the world and enslave these people. It could be a commentary like that, but like it's very, very loose, very surface level. But yeah, like I was saying before, it's like it's these sci-fi concepts that it introduces one thing, and that's what they focus on. I guess there's the Stargates, which are portals, and then there's Ra using this element to stay alive. And you learn with the human characters how everything is unfolding because you're being placed in this unfamiliar environment that does not follow the same rules as the Earth. And it's that unfamiliarity going into the unknown, which is a lot of fun, right? And I think the point I'm getting at is like, I wish there was just more original sci-fi concepts that are just like movies. Because I think it's very clear that I'm a movie guy more than a show guy. And like, just the fact that you have this one movie, when they made the movie originally, I don't know if they were planning on making them a series, but it fits well succinctly in just one movie. And that's what I want more of. I want more of unique concepts that are nicely tied up into a movie. Tied up as in the endings don't have to be so conclusive. I love me a vague ending. I love me a sad ending. But yeah, it had this 90s feel of the scale of it. It was just a fun, standalone sci-fi romp. It leaves a lot of the world to the mind because you can definitely know that there's so much history to the world. And I wish there was more movies like this. I know it's not the most polished movie and not the best movie, but like this is the kind of movie I want more people to make. Because yeah, it's something new. You're going into the unknown, exploring a cool concept. And all the big movies now are sequels. Okay. Enough of that rant. Man, I'm going on a lot of rants today. Sci-fi movies just get me in a certain mood. Okay, the logic of the Stargate. I think that was one of the things where I was like, please. Because they discovered it in the 20s. And they finally got it working because they have this one professor who was able to decipher it. And it's like he deciphered these symbols. And he was like, no, it actually says Stargate. But like, did that really matter too much? That is said, it's called a Stargate. Now we know. Okay, no, but the thing is, like, it's kind of like a lock, right? Where they had the first 6 symbols and they've been stumped for so long they didn't know which last symbol was going to open up the Stargate. But like, can't you just guess and check? Like, I get it. If you only have a couple and you need to get like 4 more, that would take a long time. There's a lot of different combinations. But if you just have 1 more, you could just guess and check. Like, please. It's a lock. Like, if you do it incorrectly, is it just going to like shut down? I don't know. That was one thing where I was like, okay, come on. Also, when they go to the other planet, it's like, oh, of course that last 7th one is broken off. You can't just guess it. And like the military people were a little stupid. They just trusted his word when he was like, yeah, I can totally get us back. Like, they should have gotten a little more assurance than like, oh yeah, I can totally get us back. I'm sure on the other side there'll be a very succinct 7 symbol combination for me to look at. Couldn't they have just like said, okay, in 25 minutes we're gonna open up the Stargate again, just make sure you come back through, and like put some more safety on it. Be like, oh, every 25 minutes we'll do it until everyone's back, and we'll be safe. Maybe it's a one-way thing. I don't know. That's just what I was thinking of when I was watching the movie. Maybe it's like a one-way thing. But you do see it on the other end. You see the watery stuff, which again, the watery stuff looks super cool. Him getting transported through the solar system, through the galaxy was awesome. I love that. It was very like, you had the 2001 feel with all the lights and colors, but like it was just super fun. And like the watery CGI effects worked very, very well with this. Him sticking his face in, kind of like, what's going to happen here? Also, I remember when he first like sticks his hands in. And my mind immediately went to, what if the Stargate was just shut off right when he puts his hand in? Are his hands just going to like be decapitated forever? And then that happened. Maybe not with the Stargate, with those teleporty ring things at the end of the movie. That was my favorite moment in the whole movie. I was so hyped when that happened. When Kurt Russell character had one of the bad guys, and then he had him on the ground, and then he brings down the teleporter things, and just his head gets teleported to Ra. That was the sickest moment in the entire movie. That was the best moment, bar none. Okay. What else we got here? Logic of the Stargate, little flawed, but like still. The concept of the Stargate is super fun. And it was really, really fun to discover. Like at the beginning, they're like, the symbol, they see like, they send in the robot and then they look as the symbol goes across the map to the other side of the galaxy. And they're like, the frequency is coming from this solar system now. And it finally validates all their theories. It was just like a fun moment where it's like, whoa, like, where's this leading? It's like just a great sci-fi moment where it's leading you into the unknown. One of their discoveries of like science fiction elements is actually true, and they have to discover it. And like that stuff is so fun. And all that stuff at the beginning was pretty fun. What else do I want to talk about? This movie wanted to be Star Wars very, very badly. Very, very badly. You had especially near the end, I would say. Near the beginning, maybe a little less. But, like, you have people going to a desert planet, and they're stranded there, kind of like C-3PO and R2. They got to find civilization. You have this big bad guy who wears a suit and uses it to prolong his life. You have Bacta tanks. His coffin thing is literally just a Bacta tank. Let's be honest here. In the end, when you have that final fight, that was the moment where I was like, this is Star Wars, where it's like you have the flying ships that literally are just straight out of Star Wars. You have the uprising. They represent, I don't know, just like the Ewoks uprising. You have the desert creature who was actually, I really liked it because it was very clearly a practical effect a lot of the time, the desert creature, and I really, really liked that. The production value on that was great. And that was one of the things where it's like you have this creature, it makes it feel very otherworldly. Because, like, exploring new planets is so fun. And that was one of the elements. Honestly, that was one of the only elements, exploring a new world, because you have so much, like, the people there are already humans. But at the same time, it worked very well because it's cool that it was just humans that were there a long time ago. And that builded on their talking about all the language and how James Spader's character could actually understand them eventually, because he's not just going from ground zero trying to learn new language. He could have studied this language in the past where it had been an ancient Egyptian dialect, and he just has to learn it more, learn their differences that may have come throughout them living on this planet. So it's one of those things where it's like, I wish that there was more of discovering this new planet, because you had the creature, and I wanted to see where that was going to go with other new discoveries, but it was a lot of just focusing on the humans. It just leads a lot to the mind, but I'm assuming in the shows they do explore it a lot. So that's very intriguing, and I could see why a lot of people would be drawn to the shows, as I am now a bit. But going back to this talk about language, it's like, he's supposed to be like this historian / linguist kind of guy, right? And it is clearly very surface level in their deciphering, in this contact with an alien species. I was thinking of Arrival when it first happened, right? Because in Arrival, they get so deep with the meaning of language and how language can what's the word I'm looking for? Justify a person's worldview and change it completely just based on the words, and how written and vocal languages are different. But this did not dive into anything like that. The languages were literally just, the symbols were there to provide a mystery of just like a clue, like a word. Which is like, if they dived into something more like Arrival and the complexities of interacting with an extraterrestrial life form in the way that it does in the movie, that could have been really, really cool. But what we got was still fun. Like I was saying before, it's everything in this movie is very surface level. It's very plot focused rather than story focused, as in the things that are happening are more important than how the characters feel about what's happening. And it's like, you have the romance, you have Kurt Russell's character, whose thing is that his kid died, doesn't get dived into too much. You have the romance, which is like literally the most forced romance I've ever seen in my entire life, and I did not like it whatsoever. You have I'm trying to think of other more character driven elements, and no, it's just like these people trying to rise against this ruler. That's pretty much what it was in the end. And they have the big battle. But again, it's surface level. I'm saying all this as in oh, I could have been this. But what we got is still super fun. A few other things that I liked were the music was awesome. The music was so grand. It felt like I know it's a wild comparison. It felt like a Jurassic Park. It was that epic. It felt like a magical Steven Spielberg 90s movie. That just this whole new world being explored, and it made the movie a lot better. I give very huge props to whoever made the score for this. It was wonderful. The production design was great. The production design, I did like a lot of the practical effects that were used. Some of the they didn't have too many crazy visual effects. Some of them were a little outdated, but they were fine. Him taking off the helmet, Raw taking off the helmet. It's yeah, okay, but in general, they don't rely on the visual effects too much, and the story doesn't call for it really too much. But the pyramid-shaped spaceship seems a little illogical, but it looks cool. It's pretty illogical. But hey, gotta explain how the pyramids are built somehow. Oh, what else? I don't know. I feel like that's mainly most of what I wanted to cover. I'll say in the end, I really did dig Stargate. I know I did bash a lot of the elements of the movie, but man, I love sci-fi movies. It was fun to explore this new world. The concept is really, really fun with this Stargate portal that teleports you to another world. Leaves a lot to the mind. Characters are surface level, but sometimes it's fun to turn your brain off and, rise against the man, in Raw in this case, and beat the bad guy. And it's just a fun 90s sci-fi epic with amazing music that I wish there was more of. Because, yeah, it gives you just this happy feeling whenever they win in the end. And yeah, I very much enjoyed it. I think on Letterboxd I gave it a 7 out of 10, 3.5 stars. But like I always say, Letterboxd reviews and just number reviews in general, who cares? It's more about talking about the movie. And I think it's a fun romp if you like 90s movies. If you like sci-fi movies, I think you got to watch it once in your life. If you're not, and if you think a bunch of fantastic, if you're sick of new superhero movies and just sci-fi movies that are quite unrealistic and are pretty surface level, you could skip this one. But I really enjoyed it. Yeah, so that's mainly all I have to say about Stargate. If you watched it, hey, let me know what you thought, because I could talk about sci-fi movies forever.